My brothers and I are fortunate to have parents that did their best as we were growing up to bring us all around a dinner table every night. It was around that table that I started to form a lot of the values that I keep to this day, and many of those values came from my parents' advice. One piece of advice was this: if you believe in a skill, and you work hard and you keep a good reputation, you can do anything. Except to be the best at something, because you're never going to be that good at something. Very inspirational words, I know, but the message was a good one. The message was the only thing you're ever going to be the best at is the unique combination of experiences, values, and skills that make you, you. Unfortunately, being the best at being yourself is not a title that is very sexy, and it's not really something that we see as an accomplishment because as far as other people know, we have always been and will always be the best at being ourselves. As far as other people know. This is what I'm going to talk about today. What we know about each other, and why it's important for us to make sure that we know about how the people around us became the best at being themselves. I'm not going to make too many promises. I'm not going to try to say that I can convince all of us to start caring about each other if we didn't already. But if there's something I've learned from my classmates here at Johnson and the staff and the faculty, is that we are surrounded by people that truly care about the well-being of others. Now, a few weeks ago, I was reviewing my resume, and like many of you were, and I had this crushing feeling of loneliness. I had in front of me a list of all my best accomplishments, everything I was very proud of, but none of the people or the stories that helped me train, so to speak, to be the best person that I am. It felt gross, and it felt very lonely. Another lesson, though, that my parents taught me was that don't complain about something unless you have a solution. So what I did is I drafted this. This is basically a free association that I did with my resume. It's what I think about. It's what I think about when I read through certain lines of my resume, and I'd like to share it with you right now. You're looking at my resume. You see I'm a student at a prestigious Ivy League business school. I want you to see me staring at my ceiling, weighted by helpless rage after reading the 10th, we regret to inform you. I want you to see my brothers in a hotel room in Austin, Texas, with me on New Year's Eve 2014, telling me they can bring me food so I can finish my Johnson application essay. They come back to our hotel room with a once warm cheeseburger and give me some words of encouragement. Nothing profound is said, but they're as sincere as I am exhausted. You see my address here in Ithaca, far away from home. I want you to see me excusing myself from a study group to keep a weekly phone appointment with my parents. You see I was an industrial engineer. I want you to see me, 19 years old, excitingly telling my dad all about my program's curriculum. A small smirk comes across his face, and he responds, I didn't ask what you want to do, I asked who you want to be. You see I held an influential role at a manufacturing company. I want you to see an operator telling me that because of my process improvements, he finally feels proud to work at the company. 4 months later, he squints away the afternoon sun as he thanks me for helping him earn a promotion. You see I made changes which save a company more than $2 million annually. I want you to see my best friend watching me collapse on the couch after an hour-long commute. His face, illuminated by his phone, peeks at me, and he asks if I'd like to join him and his family at their vacation house for the weekend. You see I've traveled 6,000 miles on my road bicycle. I want you to see me race away from work on a black Raleigh, fueled by my frustration over a conflict I recently had. When I let out a sigh, as I arrive home, my phone congratulates me on setting a new personal record, and I wondered, how could I have been so angry at something so manageable? You see, I have an extensive experience with cross-functional teams. I want you to see me, a 17-year-old high school marching band conductor, listening under stadium lights as an instructor tells me that my lack of preparation has wasted a 3-hour rehearsal. Suppressing vocal objections, I walk home and replay the evening over in my mind, eventually wading deeper and deeper into disappointment as I realize he's right. You see I volunteer my time helping to teach the same marching band several years later. I want you to see my mother convincing me through repetition, if nothing else, good things happen to good people. I want you to see the email I receive from a marching band student telling me that he applied and was accepted to a university located 2,000 miles away from home because of my emphasis on experiencing new geographies and cultures. You're looking at my resume. Are you evaluating my potential? You won't find it in the action words or the quantified results. Are you looking for the secret to achieving success? You can't find it in my story. You'll find it in yours. By the way, that exercise, I encourage you all to try it if you have ever felt the way I did. It was very helpful to my emotional state. Sometimes in business school, we can forget that what we're selling, which is what's on our resume, is not the entirety of who we are. And really, I don't think it's entirely our fault. Tell me if this sounds familiar. We will have an event, a career-focused event. And networking is defined as building a relationship that will have a positive impact on our careers. After the event, free beer and wine is served, and we stand in an atrium while we socialize? No. While we make friends. Beer and wine are great for making friends. No, while we network. We will stand in a room full of hundreds of interesting people who have been successful by society's standards and their own, and we will ask the same 4 questions. Where are you from? What were you doing before Johnson? What do you want to do after Johnson? What was your name again? We file them away in a mental Rolodex, and we finish our drink quickly because it gives us an excuse to end the conversation, which has very recently become awkward. We've run out of questions. So why do we ask these questions? I call them the forgettable 4. And I think the answer comes from the responses we expect to receive from these questions. In general, people only pay attention to things that either directly affect them or are exciting. So if you're listening to something and you don't think it's going to impact you and you're not getting some sense of excitement, there's a pretty good chance that you're not going to be paying attention. In a way, this is good news about why we ask these questions, because we expect those responses to mean something to us. If we find a similarity between us and somebody else that we're talking to, or even better, if they had a job that we want, yes, then we can use that. We can use that to advance our career. I'd like to take a quick moment. I see some faculty here, so this is kind of related. I want to promote an idea I haven't really gotten the wheels rolling on yet. If people only pay attention to the things that really affect them or are exciting, why don't we keep the attention of business school students by going the excitement route? Here's the idea. Classrooms fitted with pyrotechnics, okay? Professor calls on a student. Student answers, pyrotechnics. Professor cold calls a student, double pyrotechnics. Someone makes a comment just to get participation in the class. No pyrotechnics. And I've been trying to go this same kind of excitement route with my questions as well, to get away from those forgettable 4 questions. In the last few weeks, I've been trying to rephrase the things that I ask. Instead of saying, what were you doing before Johnson? I've been asking, tell me about where you were when you heard that you were accepted to Johnson. Instead of asking, where are you from? I've been asking, who did you spend most of your time with back at home? Or if I'm talking to somebody I really want to impress, I will ask, with whom did you spend most of your time back at home? In the last few weeks, as I've been trying this, I've actually been very amazed at many of your responses. I heard from somebody who said their proudest accomplishment was helping Marines get into college. I heard somebody who helped organize the first TED Talks in their home country. One of my favorite stories is I was talking to somebody and I asked them, tell me about your best day at work. They told me about a story that they implemented a program that ended up being successful, and the whole state was talking about how great this program was. But it wasn't the fact that the program was successful that made this the best day. It was the fact that for the first time in 3 years, his boss said, thank you for the hard work. And that's what he wanted. To be fair, I've also had just terrifying failures with this method. A classmate and I were on pretty casual terms. We had talked several times before, and so I decided to ask this aspiring investment banker a question that was on my mind. What are you going to do with all that money and so little time to spend it? Well, I'm thinking about starting my own company, he replied, and I think this might be my only opportunity to fund it. What kind of company? Gold-plated yachts? No, he replied far more calmly than I deserved, by the way. No, I want to provide loans to people in my home country who can't normally access financing, but are very passionate about their community's needs. I felt like a buffoon, and rightfully so. I deserved it. The thing that really stuck with me after that interaction, though, was that this classmate, he wasn't being understood. At every networking event, he was telling people he wanted to be an investment banker, and he knew what stereotypes came along with that. He didn't have opportunities to talk about the things that really motivated him. And the one time he did, it was with some idiot who asked about gold-plated yachts. This classmate, this friend, was not being understood. It is very difficult to be happy if you're not being understood. Maybe that's why I felt so lonely looking at my resume, because my resume omits all the people that understand me in my life, and it does not encourage new people to get to know who I am. Let's change things up. Let's talk about some solutions here. The next time you talk to me, whether it be after this, later in the atrium, a few weeks from now, after the endless onslaught of midterms, so I guess in May when you talk to me next, don't ask me the forgettable 4 questions. Actually, to be fair, just in case you really care, I'm going to answer them really quickly for you. San Francisco Bay Area, Industrial Engineering, General Management, Kenny. There we go. Now, the next time you talk to me, ask me about my career aspirations in first grade. Ask me to describe my parents in 1 word. Ask me about the best living situation I had. Ask me to describe the relationship between myself and my 2 brothers in the terms of Star Wars characters. You can ask me, ask me about my worst date. That's a good one. Here's a little tip, too. If you were paying attention, you noticed at the very beginning of the speech, I talked about the fact that my family and I ate dinner around the same dinner table most nights while I was growing up. And you caught that if you weren't inspecting the fit of my shirt and trying to see if my belt matches my shoes, that is. This is important because some people don't talk as much as I do. Some people they're not willing to open up in the way that I do. So listening for those details, that can be very meaningful for somebody. So in my case, if you find those details, ask me to bring you into that moment. Ask me about what I might have been wearing. Ask me about who I was with. Ask me about the weather. Those are important things to ask. And if you don't want to go the details route, try going the other way. Try going really big picture. Ask me about who influenced me even though I had never met them. The important thing is you should be asking me questions that you care about, because that's what excitement is. That's how you're going to stay engaged. Another way to think about it is this. Ask me questions that you would want to be asked by somebody that wants to genuinely understand you. Now, I don't want to make this one way. I want to learn about you all as well. So if I see you next time and I ask you about a childhood pet, or if I ask you to tell me a story about when you ate too much food, don't be startled. I'm not trying to pick you apart. I'm just trying to get to understand you. And I'm going to ask you questions that make you comfortable. And if you're uncomfortable with them, I understand. We're going to come to an understanding one way or another here. I'm going to ask you questions that allow you to tell a story, not questions that allow me to make a judgment on your decisions. And honestly, I'll probably ask you a question that you asked me because, hey, free content, right? Disclosing all this information is hard, and I don't want to make it seem like it should be easy, because it is difficult. Because we're sharing a lot of ourselves. We're putting a lot of ourselves out there, and it makes us feel vulnerable. And oftentimes what we do is we just don't do it. And when we don't share who we are and help others understand us, we're making a decision out of fear. In life, you really can make a decision out of fear. You can make a decision out of passion. Fear gives you something to run away from while you're looking over your shoulder. Passion gives you something to reach to, gives you something to fight and to struggle for. Fear is what predicts how embarrassed you might be if you graduate from Johnson without a job. Passion reminds you how much you can accomplish if you find a career in which you can thrive. While talking about the subjects today with some of my classmates over the last couple weeks, I've been very amazed, actually, with how many people share this passion at Johnson, this passion for understanding and being understood, and community and diversity and communication. Just endless numbers of classmates. And those same classmates share a fear of having 2 years go by without having a chance to be understood by the people that they spend hours with every day. These are people that want to ask you about how you became the best at being you. And these are people that want to tell you the same thing. And they're all around you. I've been amazed with Johnson, with everyone here. But honestly, nothing for me is ever going to compare to that dinner table. And my family has ours, will always have ours. I'm trying to make a new one, though. It's here. It's in the atrium. It's in the classrooms. It's at the bars. It's definitely at the bars. And it's in my living room. When I graduate, it's going to come with me. That dinner table has a chair for anyone and everyone who wants to sit at it with me. And I hope you all decide to do so. Thank you.